Recording is in progress. Hey, you got your halo on. So how long have we known each other?
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
I think I'm close to 40 years in the martial arts. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say we've known each other 35 years.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because I know, because it was Christopher that started with you at Latchkey.
In
That's
Latchkey.
you and Jim
Swank.
did a couple like 2 or 3 sessions, like 8-10 week sessions, I think, at Latchkey.
Again,
And
intro to karate.
yeah, and intro to karate. And I
Which
know
school?
he was at, where did he go? It was side of Darby Elementary, side of Darby, because we were living in
Conklin.
yeah, in Conklin, yeah, on the other side, yeah. Over
Wow.
on,
I didn't
yeah.
realize that that's where Chris started. I knew
That's
I
where
taught.
he started, yeah. And so then he came to the club on Main Street,
Right, which is why I taught at Latchkeys.
right? Because it was right behind, yeah, yeah.
Well, so they'd come and
So
join.
they come to class, right? And then so yeah, and then I started, well, on this part of, so September 22nd last year was 30 years for me starting. So Christopher had probably been there at the club at least a year or two, at least, because I'd come and hang out, but I wasn't training yet. So, but I'd stop by because Christopher was training stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it was at least a year or two.
You'd stop by working usually.
Yeah, I'd stop by at work. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what got you into karate? No.
That might be how I know your dad. That's one of your dad's stories.
Right. That we said that we're going to talk about. But go ahead.
I've thought about this a lot. I've always wanted to since I was a little kid. And when I was about 20 years old, I was stalked. Yeah. And it went on for about 7 years. And we ended up knowing who it was, but couldn't do anything about it because we couldn't catch him. I think he ended up doing prison time a couple of times, which would give me a year or two reprieve. And then
you would know when he got out, right?
He would be back, yeah. And so I call myself a lot of things, but one of the things I called myself was a pervert magnet. It wasn't the first time I was stalked. He wasn't the last time I was stalked. Yeah. I don't know. I think I would think I was being friendly, and I would be completely naive or unaware about the fact that they thought it was more. I had a person come into the karate school up on Cleveland Avenue, which is where I started.
Yeah.
He was sitting there every night and nobody questioned him. He was just watching, he said. And then when I wasn't there one time, he asked where his girlfriend was and said that we were we were in a relationship. And yes, and they knew that I wasn't in a relationship with this guy. So they called me right away, and we got but obviously for the 7-year person, we got that guy gone by pretending I was married to one of the other instructors. Yeah. But the 7-year stalking is what really got me into the martial arts. Yeah. It was I lived in constant fear, and I wasn't going to live that way. I think I've told you the story where he had me so rattled that I sat with a shotgun, which was the only firearm he had. And I sat with a shotgun next to my bedroom window, and I was going to shoot through the window or through the wall if he came back, because he would come knock on my window. And he didn't come that night. Thank God. Yeah. Thank God. That would have been really bad. But I was afraid to leave my house. I was afraid to come home. He'd call and tell me what room I was in. Yeah. So, I was living in constant fear. So that's why I started the martial arts. I did an intro lesson up on Cleveland Avenue. About the second, third class, I knew I'd be doing it the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Loved it.
Yeah. Explain. Now I'm going to misquote you, but I misquote you every time I say this. I give you credit. Right. So explain, don't give your chi to the kitchen sink. Explain that.
We just were laughing about that the
Oh,
other
were you
day.
really?
Yeah. It's like, if you're going to quote me, Mike, quote me at least.
I at least quote you. I at least quote you, Sensei.
You did quote me. You quote me in writing. You quoted that in writing somewhere. It was actually, don't give your inner peace to the plumbing.
To the plumbing, right.
Right. But close. You were
I'm
close.
close. I'm close.
That happened one night. One of my instructors came in so I owned the school and had people teaching for me. We had a lot of classes going on, so I didn't teach them all. And I had black belts that taught for me. And one of them came in and he was in such a bad mood. He said, I can't do this tonight. I just can't do this. Cause when you're teaching kids, you have to put on a happy face and I can't do this. And I'm like, what is wrong? And he said, I've been working on this bathtub all day and I've gone to Lowe's 3 times or whatever the store was, and I can't get this to work. And I said, man, don't give your inner peace to the plumbing. And then somebody went up and wrote it on the whiteboard, the whiteboard that we had. And that stayed for months. And it was like, yeah, we don't give our inner peace to anybody or anything. And that was a teaching moment for all of us, because it was like, wow, yeah, that's true. You can really mess up your entire day with something that small and insignificant.
Right.
So yeah, that was.
Yeah, and I think that's a gift. I mean, that is a gift, because as you know, I do say it all the time, and I do, and I give you credit. But I think, I tell, and of course we go back to doing self-defense, women's self-defense stuff, and and I think that's something we have always said. It's like, you are under no obligation to give anything to anyone, including your inner peace or definition of yourself or permission for anybody to get in your space, let alone touch you. And I think it all comes to this. It's like, I get to choose everything I give to anybody. And that's my choice, not yours. And you can't.
How I'm affected by, I had somebody tell me yesterday that the reason they had anxiety was because they surrounded themselves with people that give them anxiety. I said, not your counselor.
But
you ever thought about not allowing them to give you anxiety?
Yeah.
We got a lot we can talk about. So yeah, that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Speaking of, you gotta put a hat on.
I was gonna put a hat on. Look at
Oh my gosh, that's an oldie.
It's an oldie but goodie. I was looking for the shirt to match, the blue shirt, but
that was back in the day when, in order to get that screening on the hat, I had to take the ASKA sign off a t-shirt from OSU, and that's why it's kind of oval.
Yeah, instead of the
and then I found a store up in north side of Columbus selling our stuff. Like, I went in, he had it on the wall, Hilliard Karate Club t-shirts, hats, jackets. I'm like, no, I don't think so. But yeah, that's why that's oval shape. That's funny.
So I dug that out for you.
I was going to mention something when you talked about women's self-defense.
Yeah.
We've always said this, but this is a great, I heard this in a TV show, and I thought about you when they said it. We've always told the women where we've spoke and taught self-defense, if you survived it, you won.
Yeah.
And on the TV show that I was watching, and I don't watch much TV, so I can't give you the name of the whatever I was watching, but it was about a rapist that had a serial rapist, and one of the girls, victims, was so upset and didn't tell anybody. And finally, when they found her, the detective said, if somebody holds a gun to your head or a man's head and says, give me your wallet, everybody in the world would say, give them your wallet. So don't feel like you should feel no shame in anything that happened in that situation. And I thought about you. I said, we need to put that in the curriculum.
We need to put that in our curriculum next time we revise it, right? Right. No, but I think you're right. It's like, I think we and I think as far as, I mean, martial arts and, I mean, self-defense, or just not surrounding yourself with anxious,
People.
I'm never going to judge you for any decision, if you survive the situation, then we're in the positive.
Yeah. You
I was,
can, you can get
I was
all the help you need. We
right.
get all
It's
the
like,
help you need to get through it.
I had a lunch meeting yesterday, and the person said something. It's like, how's your day going? He says, well, I didn't get killed today. I'm going to count it in the good column. I'm like,
I
I
woke up.
walk with you there. I'm like, okay. It's like I'm surviving the day. It's not going the way I'd hoped, but hey, if I survive, and I think that was something. I mean, that is a gift.
Yeah, that is, and it's the idea of waking up every day in gratitude. I think you can. People. Here's another. I tell a lot of stories, but when we lived out in Licking County, we had a nice 2,500 square foot, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home. We did have 11 kids there. However, we had some grown, some coming home from college.
Coming and going, sure.
I never felt it like it was small. I never felt crowded, but everybody kept telling me, they'd say, man, how do you fit everybody in that house? How does everybody, where is everybody sleeping? What do you, and I'm like, well, we have a family room that we have 6 boys in, and we have 4 bedrooms, and we have 3 girls upstairs. And
right.
I started feeling like it was too small. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, I didn't think it was too small till everybody started telling me it was too small.
Right. If you all would just stay out of my big house, it wouldn't be so small.
So I started thinking, gratitude. I'm grateful for this house, and we never felt crowded. So I think it's just walking around being grateful for what you have and happy with it.
Yeah.
Which, always was, until everybody started telling. That's like everybody tells me, oh man, you have your hands full. I don't know how you do that. You must be crazy. I don't know. And I feel like, wow, am I that overworked?
Right. No. It's so you are one of the loudest advocate voices, allied voices for fostering adoptive parenting. I mean, what step? I mean, I'm total. How many kids total?
16.
Yeah. Wow.
16 permanents.
Right. I mean, that's not even counting some that were temporaries. Right.
We called our bionuclear extended adoptive family.
Right. That number. Right.
I can't come up with an acronym that's good, but
yeah.
So we have siblings of some of our kids that we've adopted that I still, talk to, keep track of, and help, and love. Kids that have come to me and not stayed, that I still adore. So 16 kids that are permanently ours. Yeah.
Right.
His, mine, ours, and other people's.
That's what got you into it? I mean, what brought you to saying, yeah, we're just gonna, now you live on, the mansion on the mountain, take a few more, I mean, yeah.
We are the luckiest or most blessed, depending on your viewpoints, people I know, to find this house and to get it, and with the fewest number of kids we've ever had, which is 5, right? We have 5 here now. What I would have answered this differently in 10 years ago, probably 15 years ago, but I think, I wanted to start a family, and you were we were friends at that point.
Yeah.
And I was not in a good relationship. So I decided I was going to do it alone. And I started thinking about how, and I thought about having a baby, artificial insemination. And I thought, man, I don't know how I'm going to stand up there in front of all these kids. At that point, we had about 250, 300 students. And I'm like, what am I going to tell these kids about who this baby's dad is?
Right.
And so I thought, man, I'm not comfortable with those conversations, and I'm not sure what, how this would come about. I mean, those kids didn't think I lived in a real house or wore real clothes anyway. They'd probably think I was the
You live here in the back and you
But
didn't,
yeah,
right, all you wear is a gi and right.
yeah. So so I decided to look into adoption. And when I signed up for classes to adopt, you also took the same class to learn to be a foster parent,
Right.
to be licensed. Well, in my very immature mind, I thought, fostering's the answer. I can try it out. And if I don't like it, I can give them back. And and I got my first foster child, which he didn't stay. The Alpha and Omega are both Tyler's. So Tyler was a 5-year-old that came to me from a pretty rough situation. And he used to hang out at the karate school with me because I didn't have childcare. And so he stayed for about 3 months and went to live with a grandparent. He had some toe-to-toes with some of the other teachers there that were pretty funny, but because he was, no holds barred. But then I got 2 little boys that were brothers. One was a 3-year-old and one was 14 months old. The 3-year-old, who I adore, and I see him a couple times a year, went to live with his grandma, so I didn't get to keep him. But the 14-month-old brother, there was also a 4-month-old brother that they had put in another home. And so when the 3-year-old left, they asked me if I'd take the 4-month-old, and I said, I can't possibly do 2 babies. No way. I don't even know how I would do that. And then when they were 5 months and 15 months, they brought the 5-month-old with them to pick up the 15-month-old for a bio family visit. They knew once I saw that baby that I would say I would take him. So he moved in the next week. And so I ended up with the 2 boys, and then it's just, I'm going to say blossomed from there. We went, then we started getting sibling groups. Then I got a newborn, and that newborn, I found out had a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old in foster care in a bad situation. We ended up with them. They're all adopted now. I'm trying to think. When I got the newborn, so I had the 2 boys and a newborn, I had a karate student who I had known. Can you pause it for a second, Mike?
You had a karate student.
So I had a karate student that I had known since I was 12. He had been a teacher of mine. And so there was a little bit of an age difference there, but he was going through a divorce or was just divorced. I had his kids in karate. And as we started talking, and he told me he would never go back to diapers and bottles. And I thought, what's this guy want? So I started seeing somebody else. But then later in the year, I got this newborn, and he must have realized that I was struggling a little bit, because he started coming over after his kids were in bed. I was getting home from the karate school, and he would bring dinner and a beer, and he'd come to my house and he would rock the baby so I could eat. So this baby was tough. He didn't sleep through the night till I think he's 27 now, and I don't think he still is sleeping through the night, but he was at least 12 and before he slept through the night. It was rough. So Kurt started coming over and rocking the baby, and he fell in love with Jeremiah. We fell in love with each other. I fell in love with his kids. And so we decided we called it, I couldn't handle the word married. When he would say, do you want to get married? I'd say, no, I'm going to have to split up with you or something, because we can't talk about this. So we called it the Great Merger.
Yeah.
We had decided we would get married, and his kids, we were going to get married in the summer. And his kids came to us and said, why are you keeping us apart?
Yeah.
We want to be with the little kids, because they were a little bit older. And so we looked at our calendars, and he was an athletic director and I had the school, and we always closed between Christmas and New Year's, and he didn't have a basketball tournament. So it's like, we could do this Friday. And so we took all the kids down to the courthouse and got married that Friday.
Yeah.
27 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he, I think the next child we got, he had to get a foster care license to marry me.
Right.
So that was kind of funny because he told them that when they asked why he wanted to be a foster parent. He says,
I guess I got to, right?
I have to. So, and then we decided that since there were 3 little boys, that wouldn't a little girl just complete our family? And so we told them we would go open, is what it was called, for a little girl.
Yeah.
And we got Cheyenne, and then they just kept calling. And we kept saying yes. And after Tasia, we quit for a while. I think that's when I realized I couldn't run a karate school and have 8 kids at home.
Right.
Or 5 kids under 5, and it was getting tough. And so long story about the karate school, but I was given an opportunity I didn't see as an opportunity at the time, but I was given an opportunity to get out of the karate business, and I took it. And then I decided, so what am I going to do with my life? And so I said, well, there's 2 things in my life I've done where I feel like I've touched lives: karate and foster parenting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really want to open another school. So that's when we started fostering again. And that's when we did medically fragile kids. And that's when we got our last 4.
Yeah.
Well, and some in there that didn't stay.
It didn't stay. Right.
Yeah. So when Kurt and I got married, we had 8, and then Jeremiah's siblings moved in 6 months later. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then kind of snowballed from
And
there.
then, how long were you in Licking County on the ranch?
20 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a long time out there.
Yeah, 20 years. We moved out there after the school closed, which was the opportunity I didn't see as an
That
opportunity.
you didn't see coming, right?
No, I was mad, but in the long run, that was a blessing. But I didn't see it as a blessing for a long time.
Why do you think?
I don't know if you remember, but the building that I was in was sold.
Right.
And so I was mad. That they should honor my lease and let me stay there. And I didn't want to build out another school. That was a 10,000 square foot.
Huge building.
Yeah. And I had Kung Fu and Tai Chi
going on. Yeah.
Step aerobics, Aikido. I had places rented out to everybody, and it was a pretty big deal. But they didn't honor my lease. And at that time I thought it was a tragedy, but it was not. It was time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went out on a high note. So as far as teaching, and I thought about this because I did teach some when we moved out to Deeds Road. I taught in our barn for a while.
Right.
And I taught at the after school programs. And the last time I taught kids was such a horrible experience for me. And I thought, man, what has changed? And, at that time, 25 years in the martial arts, and these kids are out of control. I mean, I'd never had anybody look me in the eye and say no. I'm like, you don't tell me no. You see this black belt, and I own this place.
My school, my name's on the front. I don't know if you noticed. That's right.
Yeah, your parents are paying me. But then I was thinking the other day, the kids are way different today. Way different. I don't think I would enjoy teaching today. However, in trying to stay with the gratitude and inner peace, I started thinking, we're raising kids that are so accepting. They may not be as accepting of authority. They don't, and I'll quote my grandma on this. She used to say, I won't give you a nickel for one that just sits there. So the ornerier, more spoiled, the more rotten child, the more she liked them. And I think I get that from her, because I think everything they do is funny. Right. So the only child ever kicked out of a karate class in my school was my son.
And is that surprising?
Very
Right.
embarrassing, very embarrassing.
Right.
But I
I just
think
bow
what
you
makes
out now. It's like, just
yeah,
go home.
I had to actually go physically remove him from the class. I wasn't teaching, Kathy Kerr was. She's like, you got to get him out of here. Um, so I did, but I started thinking about that. You know, you hear a lot of people that, oh, kids aren't, they're just not the same. They're not disciplined. They don't respect anybody.
Mm.
I'm looking at that a little bit differently now. I'm
Yeah.
seeing kids raised, I'm seeing these kids as kind,
Yeah.
accepting. They just don't, they're open-minded to the point where they're not going to be controlled.
Right.
And I think if you go at it a certain way, they would be just as respectful and kind, but they don't like being told what to do
Right.
or what to think, or, you know, so it's a different breed, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I hear everybody coming in, oh, this generation's lost because, you know, our kids have no respect for authority. And I don't know if it's
So sure
that.
about that. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And so, you know, some of the people I've worked with, the youth on the autism spectrum and aggressive behaviors, and I mean, and it's like, oh, they, you know, they have authority issues. Not really.
Now, all they need is a good beating and let
No,
me have them for a week.
yeah, it's like, hey, can you, hey, can you put some gloves on? I'm like, I'm not so sure that's the approach we need to take, but I'll work with them. But how about you go get a coffee and I'll do mine.
Because, you know, karate has always brought out aggression in very passive kids, but it's also toned down aggression in aggressive kids. And I think, you know, the kids that are on the spectrum and stuff, which I've raised several, and you know, a lot of they're wired differently. And, you know, I don't think that that's a lost cause. They might be aggressive and they might hit, but I don't think beating them's the answer. And if I had a nickel for every time I heard, let me have him for 2 weeks, and I've got his medication right around my waist, you know, I'll take a belt to him and he'll be fine. And I'm thinking, you know, and the better you than me. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Right.
Because yeah, hitting them is not the answer.
Right.
And if you think that's going to help when all of Nationwide Children's Hospital has not been able to,
Right.
yeah, you're on the wrong track. But yeah, I've heard that a lot.
And I think the medical, it's been my experience the last maybe even 10 years. The medical community that's working, you know, with especially youth on that level, are realizing that whether it's karate or tai chi or qigong, or I mean, that these modalities can be effective. And that, because I remember when we were in New Philly, we had a doctor was working with the youth at the Cleveland Clinic, had been an inpatient over the weekend, and said, you need to go find somebody that teaches Tai Chi. And so they find me, and I'm like, yeah. And I was like, who told you to come find me? It's like, well, the doctor at the Cleveland Clinic. I'm like, wow, okay, yeah.
That's a funny story too, because I had the pleasure of teaching 4 boys from a family where the dad was a surgeon and the mom was a pediatrician.
Yeah.
And I started getting a lot of kids with really significant ADHD and a lot of problems. And I thought, man, this has become like 50% of our school. And then I realized that the pediatricians were all referring their patients to us. And that's why we were getting so many, but I was fine with that. Every once in a while we'd have a child that couldn't stay in class, but maybe I've blocked out my memory, Mike, but when you were teaching, do you remember any kids that we had to say, we can't teach them?
No, I don't remember Ann ever saying, I don't remember ever hearing you say, we just can't, they just got to go. I don't think I ever heard you say that to anyone. And that's, now there were some adults who said, you got to go, but it's like, but kids, it's like, you got to go, because right.
Those
but adult wise, yeah.
I want to be able to, I want to get a job in corrections, and I want to hurt them as soon as I grab them. So I want to work on this technique. Yeah, those were the.
How about you send you down the street to,
This is not the school for you.
this is not the school for you.
I have said that several times to adults, but I don't think I've ever said it to kids.
No, I don't think I can honestly say, I don't think I ever heard you say to a parent, there's nothing I can do, or they're just too distracting, or you have to. Yeah, I don't think I ever heard you say that.
No, I wouldn't have, and I wouldn't have turned anybody away that want now, there were some kids that really didn't want to be there. And,
True.
I would have to tell their parents, they really hate this.
They really do, right?
There wasn't anything wrong with them. This was just
it's just like they're not having fun, and
you're dragging them out of the car for their class.
kicking and screaming.
They're not enjoying this, but always quit on a good day, right? Never. Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the other side of it. What's it like to be a competitive, highly competitive gymnastics mom? What is that like?
Scary. I used to hold the iPad up and shut my eyes because I couldn't watch, but I didn't want her to know I wasn't watching. So especially the balance beam. That makes my heart start beating. That was tough. That, there was the whole dynamics, but being a karate teacher helped, because when she would come get in the car and say, my coach said this and my coach said that, and I hate her. And I'm like, well, if you don't say you hate your coach at least once, you're probably they're not doing their job. She goes, well, she told me to get off the beam because I wouldn't throw a trick or throw one of my tricks. And I'm like, well, she was telling you to go get your head together and come back when you could do it. You weren't. And so I was able to give that to my daughter, who probably would have quit had I not, because of course she loved her coach, right, and ended up liking her again. Just that day was not a great practice, and she hated her. Every karate teacher I ever had, I think I've hated at least once.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
I'm sure I've hated you at times.
Yeah, I'm sure you have too. I'm sure you have. Probably when you spent a year working on a kata.
On one kata, it's like, you want me to do what?
And then I said, well,
on the same kata for a year?
And I write an entire journal.
Write a book about it? Right.
And then I say, yeah, I don't want the book.
This is the story I told not too long ago. It's like, what did you learn? Oh, that's nice. I'm not going to read it. Tell me. This is where I think I
thought that was mean, but
no, in your gymnastic mom, I thought we were going to have to, you and I were going to have to sit down, because then you of course, Rain, looks up to Tasia, and of course you guys came to New York and hung out with us, and and then you were encouraging Rain in her gymnastics. I'm like, I'm going to have to put a stop to this, because I don't know if I can be a gymnastic dad. You know what I'm saying?
Kurt didn't do many meets. It was pretty much me. Right. I'm like, you're encouraging, send in matching Leos for my daughter and my daughter's monkey, Yeah, because she wanted to go do gymnastics. I can't say that I would exactly encourage any child to do that, but Tasia just was not interested in anything else, and she just kept wanting to stay in and stay. She started like at 7 or 8, I can't remember, and I think they wanted to put her on team at 7, and we said no, it's too soon, she's too young. And I think at 9 we let her start competing. But it was they're telling you to do what with the twist.
Can your body do that? Really?
You only have one neck.
Right.
And I'm not sure I'm willing to watch this. But now I go back and look at the films, and they weren't, she had good coaches and good safety measures, but there were kids hurt, and hurt badly.
I know.
Yeah.
Or you can get hurt in karate. I've seen it. So I'm now. You don't have to tell the story if you don't want. Speaking of getting hurt in karate, you don't have to tell the story if you don't want.
Oh, I
But
probably
it's one
will.
of my favorite sensei stories. Why did you get thrown out of the competition in France? How about that? You want
Which
in
competition?
France?
I was gonna say, because I got thrown out of several.
I know, but I was
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say that out loud, but you were going to
As a
ask which one. And
as a competitor, I think I sent you that picture they took after the one where they wanted a picture for a magazine.
picture of the
And I'm like, the one in France was really, I didn't mean to. I was a pretty good competitor, but if I was getting beat and I was feeling pressed, like I was going to get hurt, the competition rules went out the window. And this girl was coming on pretty strong, and I just hit her, and it was way too hard, and it split her lip down. The only time you got disqualified from that tournament is if the competitor couldn't continue.
Right.
So we had people with broken noses and stuff they'd go in and stick stuff up their nose, and they could go ahead and fight. So that person that broke their nose wasn't disqualified. But the girl I hit happened to have a lot of stitches, and it was not good. But her and I ended up friends, because in the next fight, I got thrown out of that one. And then in the next fight, they let me back in because we didn't have an alternate, and I broke my hand. So karma. But when I was at the doctor's table getting my hand looked at, she was still being sewn up, and she said, tough lips, eh? Because she's from Belgium. And so we became friends from there on out. We hung out together. So she knew I didn't mean to hurt her. So that one wasn't. But yeah, I went all the way to France to get disqualified and break my hand.
Yeah.
But I got a week of shopping and hanging out in Saint-Tropez. I mean, the Mediterranean, Saint-Tropez.
How bad was it really, right?
I had to fight 5 fights. I survived the one. They taped my hand up, they sprayed some amazing stuff on my hand. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And taped it up, shoved my glove back on, and I fought another fight. And then after the next fight, I just tried to survive that one. Then they brought me back and put a cast on it and everything. But yeah, it was, we don't have an alternate. None
You got to
go back,
get back out. Right.
Yeah. There were some that I was completely kicked out of the tournament. And that was just because I felt like a girl hit me after the bell, basically. And I was not as good at keeping my inner peace back then.
Right. You gave your chi to the kitchen sink.
I gave my inner peace to the plumbing that day. Yeah, I did. And one of the only tournaments my parents were at. And my mom said she was like so proud of having a daughter out there, and then she started sinking down.
It's like, no, that's not her. She's the one over there.
Did I say that was my daughter? I don't know.
No. They all look the same. They're all wearing the same clothes. It's like, yeah, don't mind me.
So, and then they wanted a picture after I'd been thrown out. They wanted a picture for a magazine since I had won the black belt division, and I was so mad. And that picture I laugh at. It's on a frame. It's on one of those frames that change.
Yeah, that changes pictures.
Yeah, it's on there because I never want to forget that. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been that angry. Well, yeah.
But that's good though. I mean, you know where the edge is. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we say we've said before that sometimes you got to know where the edge is. You got to kind of get to it.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever been that mad. I mean, I've gotten pretty upset with people over my kids, but I've always been able to usually stay diplomatic and maintain my inner peace and talk through it. But yeah, I wasn't there. I lost it. So yeah, I was young.
That's the excuse. You were young. That's the excuse you could use.
I was young.
I was young.
That was not my better.
We are Earthen Cup. And so last few questions here. So Earth, what keeps you grounded? What grounds you?
My kids.
Yeah.
And my husband. My husband's probably one of the most spiritual people I know. And it doesn't, nothing shakes him, nothing rocks him. Where I'm like, I can't believe they did this. He's like, yeah. And some people say it's because of our age, but I think it's because, you get tired and you're like, let him do it. So he keeps me grounded. My kids keep me grounded. Waking up, like I said, with gratitude every day keeps me grounded. I guess if that's what you call grounded.
I'm asking whatever you call grounded. What do you call grounded? Right.
What do I call grounded? By the grace of God, go I.
Yeah.
I'm not any better, any worse than anybody else, and I didn't do anything special to get where I am or to do what I do. It's just by the grace of God that I'm on the path that I've been on, and I appreciate it. It's not always been good and great and rainbows and and flowers, but there's been.
Right.
I think
Unicorns.
you and I have talked about standing out in a cornfield one day screaming at God, why did you give me this child if you're just going to take him from me? When we had a son that battled addiction and high functioning autism and was living a pretty criminal life and actually did the better part of probably 3 years in prison. And he's an amazing man today and doing really well.
Right.
And God didn't take him from me at all. But I remember standing out in the cornfield one day screaming at God, and then I had to call you and say, put your pastor hat on. Sometimes it's put your cop hat on. Sometimes it's put your potty hat on.
That's right. You have 7 seconds. You get 2 shots. But that's a whole nother story. Yeah. And so, and the cup of Earthen Cup is, of course, that you have to empty your cup to fill it. And so what do you do to empty your cup so that you can be filled? And how do you fill your cup? You being the cup.
Yeah. I fill my cup with, I'm a lifetime learner. Yeah. And I think that it's, if it's not new martial arts, which I've struggled with because of some injuries from being a stupid young person that did way too much training. So I've struggled with keeping up with, I've never not done qigong, but sometimes that's all I can do. But I'm a lifetime learner. So if it's not martial arts, Spanish, I'm doing Spanish and Japanese now.
On Duolingo,
yeah. Always learning something. Meditating, I do usually, it's like embarrassing to, I knit.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with saying that out loud.
I knit. I've never been one of those girly girls that does, but I do knit. My grandfather taught my mother taught me, and that is where I zen out usually. Everybody goes to bed. That's when I sit down and I knit. So that's how I fill my cup with that, and trying to always meditate.
Yeah.
Meditation. How do I emptying my cup would be the meditation, wouldn't it?
However you see it.
I guess emptying my cup is the meditation. Filling my cup up is with being a lifetime learner. And my kids, I'm always learning something new about my kids. And one of the really unique things about my life is that I have parented children for a long time. So I have seen the trend in what kids with disabilities get diagnosed with. And I always say they get diagnosed with whatever conference is currently
happening,
the big thing. And why are so many kids on the spectrum? And I've gone from doing all the sensory integration stuff to realizing that what I believe to be is all we did 25 years ago with the sensory integration, which I don't know if you realize what that is, but it's trying to help the kids that their socks are never right, their shirt.
Right.
And what I think I realize what we've done there is we taught a group of kids not to cope on their own.
Right.
So now these kids are 25 years old and they can't really cope because we've stepped in and coped for them. You know, when we were young, it would have been, you just put your socks on and go to school. And then
Or don't wear socks. I don't care. Right. Just go to school. Right.
and these kids come along and we're like, oh, we'll get socks without the seam and we'll stimulate, you know, we'll brush and we'll swing and we'll do all the sensory integration stuff. And I'm wondering if that didn't hurt more than it helped.
Yeah.
But since I've parented on this long period of time, I have parented during all the changes in the diagnosis and the special needs. So it's been interesting, but that keeps me learning as well, because I'm always trying to learn the next, the brain's fascinating, and they are learning new things all the time about how we're wired and how in uterine drug use can cause that wiring to be different and defective in a way. Then it can be rewired. And so we're learning all that now. It used to be nurture versus nature. It was nurture when I first started fostering. And now we know it's mostly nature, mostly genetics.
Yeah.
And neurons.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, the big word now is everybody's about resilience, and, you know, and I think it's back to this, well, we have to figure out and not just, you know, take everything away and make it easy for you. You're going to build resilience by working through it.
Yeah. And I think that needs to be done. I think that, I think we've screwed up all our kids. And I don't know a parent that, well, there was a couple that did an interview one time that said that they were the perfect parents. So that's why they went back to doing foster care, because they had done such a great job with their kids. And I thought, oh.
Right. You know, I mean, you joke about.
I'll never say my kid will never, because there they come.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've all screwed our kids up in some way, and we just try to do the best we can. But yeah, I think resilience makes a lot more sense to me than coping for them, which is what I feel like we've done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The boy's mom, we would always joke, we're not saving for your college fund. We're saving for your therapy fund. And we're putting everything you do bad in a book. And when you turn 30, we're going to hand you the book and the $35,000 and just take the book to the therapist with the cash. And because we've messed you up. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? Clearly. But here it's going to better serve you than paying for your college. Trust me. And you need to build resilience by figuring out how you're going to pay.
Yeah. Good luck. Love you, son. Bye.
Because you ain't living here either. Let me tell you.
Get out of here. Kurt and I have always said, you know, well, at first we started out with, you know, my kids are going to go to an Ivy League college and all that. And then we maybe they'll go to college, and then let's get them through high school. Nobody's in jail or rehab today. We're good.
Woo-hoo, we're gonna count that as a win. That's right.
But the couple things that we try to make sure of is that we feel like we're successful if they're happy. But the most important thing is, are they good in relationships? Because if they're good in relationships, they're going to be happy. It's not going to matter what they do for a living or how educated they are. If they can be good in relationships, they'll be happy people.
Yeah. And contributing people to society and the world. And
yeah.
You know,
yeah. I mean, I don't think you can not, even if you're not contributing, if you're in a good relationship, you're contributing.
You're contributing, right? I mean, you are. You're at least making somebody feel good, or
right.
And if it's momentarily, you know, I mean, right? Yeah. You're contributing to the cosmic, you know, reality.
And if you're going to be good in relationships, you're going to be good, and you're going to care about other people. Period.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Cool.
Boy, we covered a lot of stuff, Mike.
Yeah, we did. Hey, but thanks for sitting down. Thanks for cheers, right? We're going to cheers. Cheers. Thanks for taking a sip. And hanging out. It's been, like I said, when we were talking about, you know, I was thinking about this and doing this format. And I mean, you were, in all seriousness, you know, the first person, because like I said, just after, me knowing it's been 30 years since I walked in to take a class and had a
Yeah.
gi with no belt at all. I'm like, well, what the hell is this about? I can't even hold up my pants. It's like, what? Well, you gotta learn this kata before you even get a belt, son.
Which probably took you 2 minutes.
Yeah, maybe two, but that's all right.
Maybe 3. Yeah. Mike
I had
is my.
I had Christopher to teach me. I'm like, hey, teach me
That's
this.
right. That's right. You
Right.
did. Hey, speaking of resilience, I can't
Yeah.
get off here without telling us our funny story.
Okay.
We got booked to do a speaking engagement. And at that time, I was doing a lot of speaking, but you hadn't come on board yet. Or I hadn't brought you, we hadn't started doing it together yet. I'm
Right.
not sure why.
Uh-huh.
But this particular engagement, you and I were doing it together, and we got hired by the Ohio State University Parents Group to do a speaking
Was this like at
engagement.
the Chinese restaurant or something? Was this where we're at the Chinese restaurant, right?
We're going to talk about resilience here. So, my other times that I've spoken about women's self-defense and stuff, I've been on a stage and back of a podium, or I've been, and I've had places to demonstrate or whatever. But we walked into this place and we were literally in between tables in a restaurant. And we had to deliver something because
Right.
I think they had paid us.
I'm pretty sure there was money transferred at some point in time. I do
And we
believe.
were supposed to do this women's self-defense or self-defense seminar. It was self-defense overall, women.
I think so, because it was mixed company. Yes.
Yeah, it was men and women. But we would be in the middle of talking about something and they'd be like, coffee. And somehow
They're bringing the courses. I'm like, what is going on here?
and resilient. We pulled it off.
Yeah, they did. And they thought it was fantastic. They thought it
Yeah,
was
we
absolutely
got
fantastic.
great reviews, and we walked out of there going, "What was that?
I'm like,
Who booked this?"
yeah. I'm like, you and we got to come up with a plan. That's what I think that was like driving back. Is like, we got to come up with a plan.
Yeah,
We can't do this again.
That was bad.
Cool. Well, we'll do it again. You know that. I mean, you just sent me, was it a month ago, an email on updating our curriculum and stuff. So we
Yeah.
still, those of us, those that are listening, we still.
Well, what I was telling you earlier about the TVC, let's put that into.
Okay. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Oh, the air tags. That's what I brought up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. We talked about it. And funny about the air tags, I didn't know anything about it.
I didn't either.
My daughter did. My 9-year-old daughter.
Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting? That, yeah. And you were talking about,
Asian.
right, is the one that kind of brought it up, and
Well, it came up on her phone that an air tag was
had been placed on, right? And I'm like,
yeah.
And my daughter knew. Oh, Daddy, let me show. I'm like, what? Don't tell me you know how to do that, right? Right.
That's scary stuff. I could, then my mind starts thinking like a criminal. How many women have their purse over their shoulders? Somebody could drop that air tag in their purse. And as a person that's been stalked and actually survived 2 attempted abductions, we'll have to talk about that some other time.
Yeah. Explain what an air tag is. Explain what an air tag is.
Air tag is a round disc that you can connect to your phone, and you can always know where that air tag is. So the reason I was exploring it is because my granddaughter kept losing the charging case for her AirPods. And I thought, well, there's got to be some way that we can track it. You can track the AirPods, but not the case that charges them.
Right.
So I started exploring and I learned about this. And then right within the same week, my daughter came home and said, I got a notice on my phone that there's an air tag connected to me. And I don't own an air tag.
Right.
And so then she started talking about, okay, so this is what guys do now. They put them on your car. They put them, in your purse. They put them. So I got to go look underneath my car to see if I have an air tag somewhere.
Yeah. Or in your purse or on your something in a book or something. Yeah.
They've been put in shoes. They're so thin. So as a person that's been stalked and with it, that is very scary to me. The air tag thing is very scary to me because they can watch on their phone everywhere you go. and where you are now.
Right.
So
In real time. Yeah.
yeah, in real time.
Yeah. So we got to put that in.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, we ran the gamut,
we
which
did.
isn't shocking, but that's
No,
okay.
no, and it flew by. So thank you for interviewing me.
Hey, thank you for just chatting, and yeah, and we'll see where the next 30 years gets us.
I thought I was going to have a panic attack there. I've never had one, but I thought I might. When you were telling me, I'm like, what topic are we discussing today?
We're just going to chat. It's just like we do anytime the phone rings. We're just going to chat, right? Because the phone rings and it says sensei on it. I'm like, oh, I wonder what it's about today.
Yeah, what's going on now? Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks, and yeah,
You
I appreciate it. And we'll
have a great rest of your day.
You too. You too. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.